Are you any closer to answering these questions about what a Republican answer might look like?
Thank you very much for having me on. And indeed, Republicans are going to put forward our own plan with regard to how we fix this broken system. Obamacare has been a disaster for the last nearly 20 years. It's failed to deliver on its promises. You can't keep your doctor. Prices just kept going up and up and up. And we know that there's solutions out there. I agree entirely with what the president was saying. Just give the money to the people and not to insurance companies. In fact, in the bill that we just passed earlier with regard to reconciliation, we changed it so you could put HSAs with bronze level plans to be able to give money directly to people as opposed to giving it to insurance companies. We know there's a variety of other things that will work as well, like allowing people to buy insurance across state lines, association healthcare plans, creating high-risk pools for people who've got pre-existing conditions to take care of them. So I think there's a number of things that we can do to be able to offer the American people that will actually help start bringing the cost down instead of this failed system that, again, the Democrats very cynically, passed these, Biden, Obamacare, pandemic subsidies, these bonuses, and they're about to expire, but they were really meant to buck up a system that was failing. And so just throwing more money at a system, and to your point about Democrats just want to extend the same system that we already know is rife with fraud and corruption, that's wasting, millions and millions of dollars. This is not what we want for the American people. We want to try and find solutions.
Well, it was noteworthy that Senate Majority Leader John Thune last night decided to back the plan put forth by Bill Cassidy and Mike Crapo, Senator. It doesn't sound like the caucus has arrived at a plan. Is that fair to say?
Actually, I had to leave the lunch before to get to this interview, so I don't know what the final outcome was. But we were discussing, as you point out, this very idea of what we want to put forward. And I think that putting forward our ideas with regard to how we actually address health care, I know as coming from a Nebraska senator, I want to deliver for Nebraskans. We want to be able to show that we have got a plan that will help Nebraskans' health care costs actually go down, not continue to go up the way it has under Obamacare. I think most Nebraskans know that Obamacare has been a failure. So we as Republicans want to show, here are some of the ideas that can actually make a difference versus continuing to support the same old Democrat system that we know has failed and, frankly, is rife with corruption and fraud.
I almost feel like I should apologize for pulling you out of that meeting, Senator. That's pretty important stuff. Do you have confidence that there will be a solution? We hear about what's going to happen with subsidies and premiums rising 2, 3, and 4-fold if we go over the so-called cliff. Will there be a solution before the end of the month?
One of the things I think it's important to note is that when the Democrats put these Obamacare, COVID bonuses out, they took the caps off who could get them. So we're providing these to people at much higher income levels. What we really want to do is focus on helping people who are at the lower income levels with regard to that. I absolutely believe there's a solution out there. We do need Democrats' help on this, right? We need to get to 60 votes to be able to pass anything with regard to how we're going to reform health care. So I certainly encourage Democrats to look at how we can find common ground and solutions on bringing the health care costs down for people who we really need to be helping. And really, for those folks at the higher income levels, let's look for solutions that involve them actually maybe getting private health care or other solutions. But really, as the government, we should be trying to help the people who are at the lower income level.
I want to ask you about chips and national security, Senator, with your position on the Foreign Relations Committee. You're up with an important bill here, and it's something that's very important to our listeners and our viewers on Bloomberg, having just spent 24 hours talking about Nvidia potentially selling H200 chips to China. Of course, we'll see if China allows that to happen. But you've got a SAFE Act you're co-sponsoring with Chris Coons that would essentially codify the export controls, as I understand it, where they are now. It would cement them in place. Does your bill compete with this idea of selling H200s to China?
So our bill, the Safe Chips Act, is designed to make sure that we don't sell our high-end AI chips to China. And I really think it just supplements what the administration is trying to do. It does give the Commerce Secretary the ability to adjust the standards 30 months down the road. if the administration gives licenses on the chips like the H200, it doesn't revoke any licenses the administration gives out, but it does really set a bar to slow down the number of chips that would be going to Communist China. We need to remember that Communist China only produced about 570,000 of these chips last year, compared to us and our allies producing like 20 million. They need us. We need to slow this down. We don't want a world where China is dominating AI. I know for my state and Nebraskans, I was as governor, the first governor to ban TikTok, for example, on our state devices. Nebraskans understand the risk that Communist China poses. We don't want a world where it's Communist China's authoritarian values dominating AI. We want to be able to be the ones that are setting that, and so we want to keep our competitive lead, and that's what our Safe Chip Act really is designed to do, is to be able to help America keep our AI chip lead.
So are you cool with selling H200s to China, Senator, or are we playing with fire here?
I think it's dangerous and risky to give China high-end AI chips. I certainly encourage the administration to think about the risks that they're taking when they do this. I don't know what the advisors are advising the president on this with regard to that, but I think there is a risk here that China in other industries has taken our technology, copied the intellectual property, and then kicked our companies out. They've done this in all these industries, and Xi Jinping specifically has said that he doesn't want to be dependent on the United States at all for any of these AI chips, and they've invested billions and billions of dollars in trying to get away from us. So we should really take him at his word and not help him actually get the technology and the know-how and the chips, frankly, for the compute power to be able to catch up with us in this AI race. It's important we continue to have a dominant position, and again, that's what our Safe Chips Act does. Is really helps us as a country, delivers for us that national security.
Have you heard from Jensen Huang about this? His whole message has been the only way to win the AI race is to get the entire world on the American stack. If that's the case, does the H200 represent that, or are you drawing the line, for instance, at the Blackwell chip? That's the one that China cannot get.
Well, again, I think that we should slow down any high-end AI chips from going to Communist China. And frankly, I think that just, again, I think that helps us actually supplement what we want to do with regard to dominating the AI tech stack with American technology outside of Communist China. So remember, Xi Jinping, the dictator of Communist China, wants to make sure that he's got his own chips and his own technology, and we should have a dominant lead on him, and that's actually how we will win the race in the rest of the world, to make sure they're using the AI stack with our technology, making sure they're using our AI models, using our applications. That's what we want, and so again, keeping that commanding lead will help us make sure that we've got the ability to deliver that American AI technology stack to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Is the White House behind this, Senator? That would help a lot. I'm curious if you have the votes. If Donald Trump says go for it, that would help, wouldn't it?
Well, Senator Coons and I just introduced this bill last week. As you can see, it's a bipartisan bill. We've got not only Senator Coons on it, but Senator Shaheen and Senator Kim from the Democrat side, Senator Cotton and Senator McCormick on my side. So we are just starting right now to socialize this idea with my colleagues. We're going to continue to work on how can we make sure we limit the number of AI chips, especially these high-end ones, right, that are going to Communist China, so that we can continue to have our lead. So we're going to continue to work with our colleagues here, and of course we'll work with our colleagues in the House and the White House as well to be able to get that done.
Really interesting moment that we're in with regard to Ukraine, Senator, and I know that the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, includes, I believe, $400 million to support efforts in Ukraine through intelligence, through military, and so forth. Is that the way to end this war, is to continue supporting Ukraine?
Dictator Putin is only going to end this war when he thinks he's losing it. And so we've got to get to the point where he believes he's got more to gain through a peace than continuing this war. That means we need to continue to support Ukraine to make sure they've got a strong battlefield defense. Intelligence is obviously part of how we can do that. We also need to make sure we're ramping up the sanctions on them, and frankly, helping drive down the price of oil, such as the administration and President Trump have done, really helps us do that. That helps keep us safer when we've got a dictator like Putin who believes that he's under more pressure. So we should continue to do that. And again, that's how we deliver national security for our country, is to make sure that we got dictators in check. And so making sure that Ukraine is successful in pushing back on Putin is one of the ways that we can help make our own country stronger.
Well, in our remaining moment, Senator, do you support the peace plan that's being formulated, what you've heard about that so far? Do you think it rewards the man you just called dictator Putin?
Well, we all want to see the fighting in Ukraine stop. And what we need to do is make sure that we have Ukraine in a strong position to resist aggression in the future. So making sure that they've got the weapons they need, they've got the army they need to be able to defend themselves, that they've got the support from Europe, and that they've got appropriate security guarantees are all the things that we're going to need to have to get to a final peace agreement. We don't want to have something where Putin can just years later, or even just the next year, decide he's rebuilt enough to attack Ukraine again. So it's got to be something that actually has Ukraine in a strong position to be able to resist aggression in the future, because frankly, again, Putin's a dictator. He's going to continue to come after Ukraine. Russia has done this for centuries. This is not something new that Russia has done just in the last, couple of years. So we're going to have to make sure that Ukraine's in a strong position going forward.